just were waiting for me to finally make it into the meeting itself. Okay, fantastic. As Kate just mentioned, this meeting is being recorded, and a video of this meeting will be provided on our website in accordance with the Open Meetings Act requirements. So just to review the ground rules for the meeting, if you could please keep your microphones muted, and then hold your questions until the end of the presentation that Lisa Horger will be giving today. When you do have a question, we will be going by the order of hands raised as best we can. Please make sure that you announce yourself by name when speaking, so that any of the attendees on the phone can identify you. And after I said that, I always remember that I should announce that my name is Sandy Hertz and I am the chair of the Critical Area Commission's Project Review Subcommittee. Prior to this meeting, the public was invited to submit written comments on the agenda items up to 24 hours prior to the meeting. If any of those comments were received, they will be read by the commission staff at the appropriate time. And at this point, I'm going to ask, is it Nick or Charlotte, to use the list of attendees and teams to announce all of the commission members in attendance.
Thank you, Chair Hertz. It's Charlotte today. This is Charlotte Sheeran of the Critical Area Commission. When I'm going to read out the list of commissioners who are in attendance, if I do not call your name, please let me know. So we have Commissioner Laird, Commissioner Mahoney, and Commissioner Varney Alvarado by phone. And then we have Commissioner Grant, Commissioner McCall, Commissioner Sutton, Commissioner McCarthy, and Commissioner Parker and Commissioner Roberson. Is there anyone's name I did not call? Okay, thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for doing that, Charlotte. At this point, we can turn to the presentations. So I believe the first and only agenda item today is the regulations that Lisa will be presenting to us. So Lisa, if you want to take control.
Okay, thank you, Chair Hertz. Let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see it.
We're seeing it in the not slideshow view. I don't know if that makes sense. There you go. Now it is.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for hanging on with us this morning. We are updating the renewable energy regulations already. They became effective back in March, but I will explain while we're doing some changes to that in just a minute. We're also going to be making changes to Subtitle 02 and Subtitle 03 in our regulations concerning commission reviews and notification of project applications. As I briefly outlined in your staff report, we had been contacted by the Public Service Commission staff and the staff from the Power Plant and Research Program at the Department of Natural Resources regarding applications for certificates of public convenience and necessity, which is CPCNs, which you all are familiar with at this point, having walked through the solar regulations with me over the past few months. And the PSC is updating their own regulations to include some pre-application meetings, some updates to their definitions, and also to the application materials that will be required by an applicant for a CPCN. So subsequently, that affects our regulations in at least two ways, which is one, as you know, we just did our solar regulations, or as we call them, the renewable energy regulations, and they became effective March 8th. So we have to go back into that regulation and update it so it will be consistent with the regulations that are forthcoming from the PSC. And also CPCNs aren't just for renewable type projects, but they also can affect anything like a coal-fired power plant, gas turbines, nuclear power plants, or even electrical lines. So we can see these applications in the critical area for any of those types of projects. So that's why we need to go in our other two subtitles, as I mentioned earlier, to update those as well. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a list, which we required in our regulations, but only as a reference to a checklist. But now they're actually going to appear in the regulations. We are going to require that local jurisdictions send us those solar energy generating systems that are in limited development areas or resource conservation areas to be sent to the Commission for review. And finally, we're going to ask that for those major solar systems that are approved, we'd like to see that final approved application. So as I mentioned, we have reached out to both the Power Plan and Research Program and the Public Service Commission. We've had several meetings with them at their request, and we have subsequently put together the regulations. So on page 2 of your staff report is where the discussion of the proposed amendments takes place, and also on the accompanying document, which is the actual proposal, which is 2 pages long. It's a fairly short proposal, so I'm going to go through it with you piece by piece. So on the screen is COMAR 2701 Chapter 14, the brand new chapter called Renewable Energy Generating Systems. That again was effective May 8th. And what we're doing here is we're inserting a new regulation, which is 02-1, titled Application Requirements. And here we're putting in all of the things that we want. And again, this is just focusing on the renewable energy generating systems at the moment. We'll get to the others in a minute. So we want to ensure compliance with the requirements not only of this chapter, Chapter 14, for a major solar energy generating system in the resource conservation area, but a local jurisdiction shall require that a site plan addresses the requirements of 270207, which you'll see in a minute, and that's a reference to our subtitle 02, Chapter 7, which is the Commission review procedures. We also wanted to make sure that the application for a major solar energy generating system in the resource conservation area included items 1 and 2, which you can see on the slide, which are the calculations for the required reservation of resource conservation area density development rights and the identification and location of property restrictions. So we can ensure that the calculation of those reservation rights are accurate. And finally, B, we say a local jurisdiction may require a site plan for a minor solar energy generating system. This provision is in our existing regulations, and we're simply just moving it into this new regulation 01-2. So that's language that you all have already seen. We're just moving it around. So that's the change to subtitle 01. As we get to subtitle 0207, which I just referenced earlier, again, this is the Commission's review decision process and timeframes chapter in subtitle 02. And in regulation 02, we're requiring this additional criteria for certificates of public convenience and necessity. Now note that these are for all CPCNs, so I want to be clear that it's not just for a solar project, but for some of the other types of CPCN projects that the PSC may be reviewing as a result of needing a CPCN. So they're going to need a certificate of public convenience and necessity. You'll see in the second bullet, it says in accordance with COMAR 207901. And that is a reference to the Public Service Commission's application requirements. So an applicant for a CPCN shall include with its environmental review document or on a site plan the following information. So for us, in addition to what the PSC requires, we want to see, and we have a list of A through N, which I'll quickly go through, of all the things that we want to see on that application. So we want to see the critical area boundary and critical area classification. We want to see the project area and limits of disturbance, the acreage inside the critical area. We want that 100-foot buffer on there if it's applicable, and 100-foot setback, I'm sorry, a 300-foot setback again, if that would be applicable on a site. The habitat protection areas, any forest and developed woodland acreage, and any existing and proposed lot coverage. If there's steep slopes, we want to see those. These are all pretty standard requirements, by the way, when we ask for an application in the critical area, but we want to make sure that this is clearly in our regulations. Continuing on, any proposed mitigation that may be required or a planting plan, calculations demonstrating compliance with the critical area stormwater pollutant reduction calculations, compliance with our commission's notice requirements, which exist in Subtitle 03. And you might recall when one of us presents to you a state or local project, we also say whether the project had been put on public notice, and that's that requirement. And the last two requirements have to do with state agency projects on state-owned lands, and when the project is in the RCA, and item N, that is in compliance with that cross-reference there, 27011401-2, which is the one that I presented a few moments ago. And finally, in Subtitle 03, Chapter 01, which is notification of project applications, in existing Regulation 04, which as you can see is categories of applications that the Commission wants to receive notification, we're adding item G. Now items A through F are, existing provisions in Subtitle 03 that instruct local governments of different types of projects we want to see. So here in G, we're adding in here that for major and minor solar energy generating systems, we would like to get a copy of that application, and also at the bottom of that provision, a copy of a final approved application for a major solar energy generating system. So that wraps up the changes. It's a fairly short proposal. Again, we're just kind of cleaning it up and tightening up the edges. And here is what I believe would be the timing of when this would happen, should the Commission vote to allow staff to publish in the Maryland Register today. So I would expect it to publish about June 18th. That would give it a 30-day comment period through July 19th. And then if we have an August meeting and you all vote to allow staff to publish it as final, it should appear, in the August 27th edition of the Maryland Register. And if that happens, it will become effective by September 9th. So now my dog Finn is asking if anyone has any questions, and I'll turn it back over to Chair Hertz this time.
All right. Thank you, Finn, for being our question person today, question dog. Charlotte, were there any questions that popped up in the chat during Lisa's presentation?
Oh, sorry. There have not been any. I was on mute.
Okay.
I would like to add,
No.
I had forgot to mention that we did not receive any public comments prior to this meeting.
Okay. And then I will just reiterate to the commissioners on the call here, if you would like to ask any questions, just please raise your hand and we'll call on you. If there were no questions in the chat and nobody raises their hand right now, then I am going to move to have the motion to approve the regulations affecting the following Code of Maryland regulations. COMAR 27.01.14, solar energy generating systems. COMAR 27.02.07, commission review, decision process timeframes. COMAR 27.03.01, notification of project applications. And I'm asking for a motion of from one of the commissioners to to approve this. So I'm asking somebody to approve this motion that's being presented on the screen right now. So if we have a commissioner that would like to move to approve the motion, please unmute yourself and say your name so that we can record it for the record.
This is Commissioner Robertson. Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Robertson. Can we get a second?
Second.
Go ahead. I heard a gentleman. And who was that seconded the motion?
Laird.
Okay, thank you. All right. At this point, I always forget, but I think that what we say is we're going to call for a vote. I am going to specifically ask if there are any nays or abstentions that need to be heard or that want to be recognized. And then I think that the roll call is supposed to be done by Charlotte on the actual vote.
So I think we only need the roll call if there are any abstentions or nays. Yes. And I can do that.
All right. So I guess I'll re-ask again to reiterate, are there any nays or abstentions? If you have a nay or an abstention, please indicate by unmuting yourself and indicating now. All right. Hearing and seeing no nays and no abstentions, then it looks like we have approval, at least in the committee.
You may want to say all in favor, say aye.
I could say that. Yeah. Why don't we do that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I raised my hand too, just to doubly be in favor of it.
Aye.
So. Excellent. I believe that is the only thing that we had on our agenda today. So I apologize for my delay in joining you guys. I have no idea why it wanted me to only join the program committee meeting this morning, but technical issues. I will see you guys at 1 o'clock for the commission meeting. And thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that's off for the afternoon.